Hi there YouTube, Music Aviator here. We're at Moruya, where we left off a couple of weeks ago before our issues with our PC came to light. Since then we have, in the virtual world, been hanging out here at Moruya's campsite, which is directly across the road from the airport. That's real, you can look at it, Moruya Airport Campsite. You can pay loads of money to pitch a tent right about here where I'm standing. And yes, that is the airport right across there with the terminal building and the Coke over there. In the real world, I have been off to Scorp Tech with my 4-month-old PC, getting new RAM, getting a new SSD, all kinds of stuff done to it. Hopefully it's working now. But there was certainly a RAM issue, which has since been dealt with. Anyhow, we're assuming that we have packed up our tent, taken that over to Hotel Tango Mike. We'll be flying the Piper Cherokee, pretending it's an Archer, today, PA28. Hotel Tango Mike will be taking it over to Canberra. So we're on the coastline at the moment, and we'll be flying over those mountains over there today. Last couple of moments of tent time. Let's have a look at our flight plan. And hello to CMDT Sampo, Terrell Leaper, and Australian Skywatch. Anyhow, out of Moruya, we'll be flying up towards, where we're going, Captain's Flat, then up to Lake George South, and I think we might do a little bit of a fly around Canberra in the OCTA area. And after that, we'll head on into the airport. Short flight today, not particularly long at all. You know, Avatar's started to do some circles again, as he often tends to. That's a bit annoying. There, got him. Cool. Let's walk across the road over to Moruya Airport. And Elijah H, yes, I did get most of it covered by warranty. The RAM was free. I didn't actually get a replacement SSD. They've managed to fix that without the issue. Then I just purchased a new one and had it all backed up by them. I think the total cost eventually was about $80. So I've got 2 SSDs. I've now got 32 gigs of RAM because I purchased some extra while I was there. So I went in with 16 GB of RAM, and 8 of that was malfunctioning, and we've come out of it $90 lighter, but we've got 32 gigs installed, and we also have 2 SSDs plus the hard drive. So yeah, a bit more stuff in the computer now. Literally got nothing on the second SSD at the moment, but perhaps we'll put another SIM on it. Whether that be X-Plane or FSX or FS 2020, whenever that comes out. Not sure why there's no fence here. Looks like it's a fence, but it's actually invisible and not there. They actually waived the installation fee for my second SSD as well. So they just said, yeah, we'll give you 2. Just buy the SSD, which is essentially what I paid for. I paid the price of the extra SSD and an extra bit of RAM. And they went, yep, well, since we've got the system open and under warranty anyway, would have been free if I hadn't have put in the extra RAM, but hey, I bought it anyway. On a whim. You never know. You could end up with 32 gigabytes needed at some point. Hey, I might use it for city skylines or something like that. Elijah H saying that he might join for the flight. That's pretty cool. Yeah, we won't be particularly quick. Just making our way over to the Piper right now. I'm just forward of position 3. So if you're spawning position 2 would be good. I think 2 is just that one over there, and we're on 3. Of course, you could fit right next to those Cessnas on the other side. That'll be cool as well. Anyhow, here is Hotel Tango Mike. A Piper Cherokee. It seems to have lost its tie downs and wheel chocks. Let's put them in. So, let's jump on. Okay, tie downs and stuff are off. First thing I want to do is drop the flaps. Flaps are down so I can do the rest of the stuff. Another thing I'm going to do is just double check that we have the pilot cover off. So with that done, we can turn on the master switch and chuck in our, where is it? Pilot probe heat. Probe heat goes on, just gives it a couple of seconds. Yes, this is the OZX scenery. The link should be in my description, direct to the airport, because the Moruya was released as a separate product. Or as a separate release. It's a free product, so calling it a product is probably a little bit much. Cool. So, flaps. Look good to me. Ailerons. Free. And let's check all of those attachment points. That's all good. Tie down is already off and the chocks are away in the boot. Fuel drain. Percent likes the views. Alright. Yeah, that's because I'm not that controversial. Usually. Sometimes I am. Not really. Okay, the fuel is up to the boot, which means we can throw the airplane around a bit. And we have how many quarts of that? About 7. Maybe 6 and a bit. Okay, the nose landing gear is nice and solid. Propeller's good, no cracks or nicks in it. And nothing's built a nest inside the aeroplane in the last 2 weeks that has been sitting here in Moruya. And AOS V2, yeah, I probably would turn off the 2. Because otherwise you'll probably find that the runway's markings float a little bit above the actual surface of the runway. And yes, I do agree that the grass is a bit high. Perhaps it hasn't been touched since we landed here 2 weeks ago. Okay, forward drain. No fuel. Nothing except fuel in there, no water. Also up to the boot, very nice. And the annoying fuel drain, which is on the ground. You have to crawl under the wing to get there. It's just there right next to the tyre, right on top of the tyre effectively. So if it leaks straight onto the tyre. How useful. There's the stall warning system. That there is the pilot. Clear. Nothing in it. Ailerons attached. Flaps good. And attached. Now here's the wonderful thing about a Piper Cherokee. That's the trim tab that I'm moving up and down there. Then the entire thing moves up and down. It's not an elevator, it's not a stabilizer, it's a stabilator. Part of a mix between elevator and stabilizer. the entire thing moves up and down. The only other aircraft you'll see with a system like that is a Lockheed L1011, and maybe the like fighter jets that you might see around. Looking inside though, I can see that the big chunky thing that moves it up and down is nice and solid. Okay, the boot is locked and we can jump into the airplane. Scoot along onto the seat. Good. Alrighty. Now the good thing about these flaps is you don't need electricity to move them. They're just a pop. Big chunky lever with some holes. So yep, aircraft safety does come first. We have done the safety checks on the outside of the airplane. Let's read through some of these inside ones. So the prime before starting, leaning on the ground for fouling, idling under 1,000 until the pressure and temperatures come up. It is a cold engine. We haven't moved the aircraft for 2 weeks. The stall speed, blah, blah, blah. We all know everything about that. Aircraft weight and balance is well within. We've got half fuel tanks. 2 people on board. Control wheel lock is removed. Controls free and correct. Cool. And I'm just going to check the master beacon. Rotating beacon is in for the start. We'll shut that door. Hopefully it won't crash this time. If it does, I'll be really, really annoyed. Little bit of window open. Okay, so what I need to do is make sure that's there. That's back. That's back. Cool. Three good turns and lock it back in. Carburetor heat is off. Just before I do start moving these things around. 1025. Let's get ready. Nose around the aeroplane. Clear prop. Came aligned pretty well. Get these radios on. On 24.0 is set. Oh, the Tim Curtis. I've been getting, well, essentially my RAM was bad, so the app would just randomly close itself when it started using the bad RAM. So if there is a crash today, it won't be due to that because I have different RAM now. Anywho, let's have a look at where we're going. Out of Moruya, we need to track towards Captain's Flat, which is CAPT. From there, we're tracking up towards, where is it? Is it Hoskinson? Yeah, it is HS. Yeah. HST. My audio output isn't working. Let's drop that. It's back in. Cool, from HST we're off to Bungendore, B-E-N-E, Benny. Yeah, maybe not. What is it? B-E... Just skip it and we'll do it visually. Lake George North though, I want. LGGS. Good stuff. And from there I'll just tag in Black Mountain as well. BKM. And Tuggeranong as well. TGC. Yeah, it's just a bit of magenta on the map. Well, GTX 1080 should be fine. 8 gigabit of RAM is pushing it. 16 would be a lot nicer. But RAM's cheap. Don't need fast RAM. Just need 16 gigs of it. Buy it all at the same time though. Well, at least make sure it's the right type of RAM. Get the DDR3s and DDR4s ready. Get CPU Z, and then you can see what kind of RAM that you have, so you can tailor it to what you need. That's my advice of the day. Rotating beacon is on. Pump is off. Be on for the departure. I'm going to lean out quite a bit. Till it starts to sputter a bit, and give it back a little bit more. There we go. Now let's go ahead and taxi out. You know what I haven't done is get my charts ready for the departure. Marimbula. Wrong. Wrong airport. We're not in Marimbula, we're in Moruya. There we go. Cool. So looking for 126.7. Set. We're ready to move. Traffic, Moruya. Hotel Tango Mike is a Piper Cherokee taxiing to runway 36 Traffic Moruya. There's Elijah in his whatever that thing is. Nice little tail drag of a look of it. Okay, engine start is completed, radio master is in, throttle, we'll do the ground check now. Steering with the rudder pedals. just pop over into the kind of run-up bay there next to the yellow lamp, the yellow cones. Face aeroplane back in that direction. Brakes are set, and we'll do a run. Hey, that's right, we haven't richened that. We're fully rich. (17 RPM). Mag drops it by about 50, maybe in 20. More like a 25 drop. That's cool. Carby heat. That's working well. Settles in about 600 RPM. Carby heat's off. 1000 RPM. Which tank is the fullest? Our right side tank is the fullest. Currently feeding off the right side. That's a good nature of things. Alright, now we're checking our heading, showing just to the west of north. Nothing like that. Okay, switch that around. That's more like it. Temps and pressures, all pressures in the green, everything else is in the green. Happy with that. Let's run a before takeoff check. Takeoff seats, belts and doors. Alright, so the door has a top latch which is locked. Good stuff. Seatbelt goes across your lap like a little thing. There's no shoulder straps on these planes. There is in the Archer. That's one little shoulder strap that's usually attached to a pointer out there and comes across the door. It's a bit of annoyance, to be honest, but this airplane's only got the lap. If we do have a hard landing, I'll brief you. Make sure you put your hands onto the top of the dash so your head doesn't come forward. If we do have any reason to leave the airplane in a hurry, there's only one door. It is off to the right hand side. There is a latch at the top which is painted red. You'll need to open that latch and then also pull that handle forward, push the door open, give it a good bash and make sure that you walk towards the back of the wing. Do not walk forward. There's a big spinny propeller of death over there. Alright, another thing to worry about, we have pedals at the front seat there, passenger up the front. Please don't touch those pedals. You also will find a little air vent right here. If you get warm, open that air vent and it blows air. The source of that air is the propeller. If the propeller stops, there's no air. Looks like we don't have any air traffic controllers online on vatsim for the moment. Let's double check that is the case still. Yep, still the case. That's a pity. We could have actually used some controllers going into Canberra today. Okay, the carby heat is off, fuel selector is to the fullest tank, electrical pump goes on for the takeoff. And engine gauges are normal, wing flaps not required. We'll move it. I'm just going to type into the Unicom, let people know we're coming. say aloud what we're typing in there. Just want to look at the meta as well. Moruya Airport, meta. Oh, that's nice. Should show you guys that. So there's Bateman's Bay where we are roughly, and you can see the wind is pushing down mostly from the north. So I'll be using runway 36. Gonna send my text. Traffic, Moruya. Hotel Tango Mike is a Piper Cherokee taxiing runway 36 departure to the west. Okay, mixer's fully rich, brakes are off. Runway approach is clear. Lights to bright. Landing light is in, strobes are on. Let's go. Runway 36, and we're departing to the west once everyone. Looking at 70. And an 80 knot climb. .500 feet. Ever so slightly westbound. One last look at the beach. Bye bye. It was nice knowing your coastline. We'll see you somewhere near Sydney. Because for now, we're heading inland. Just reducing the power a little bit to keep RPM sitting at 2500. There goes Moruya. There's our tail on the runway. Looks like he's moving. Right, we're tracking towards Captain's Flat. We're out of 1,500. Traffic Moruya, Hotel Tango Mike depart the field at 1,500 on climb to 6,500 tracking westbound. I'm happy to drop the Fuel pump is off. Like in those hills, I want to get over those pretty quickly. 6,500 we can do. We can actually climb up to 8,500 if you want to, but we need to be 5,500 or below pretty much when we hit Captain's Flat, so that's really best not to go too high. But we do need to climb over some 4,500 foot hills. There's 4,459 feet, so we'll need to be at least at 5,500 at that point. I reckon if we're at 6,005, we'll be just about right. Once we hit Captain's Flat, we want to be at 5,005, and then we'll continue down to 4,005 on our way up towards Bungadore. Aaron Antonopoulos, there'll be a lot of traffic on Saturday. I'll put up a live stream for that. There's a big event on Saturday called Panic Stations. We'll be flying over to Perth. I'll be departing from Melbourne. Hopefully there'll be air traffic control the entire journey from Melbourne all the way over to Perth. It's probable that you'll get full ATC from Sydney to Perth as well. And there's a chance I might bring out the old 787 Dreamliner for that one. Private message. Yeah, I'll be Dreamlinering 787-9, good old Qantas Airlines, Melbourne to Perth, the first bit of that journey. Thanks to Lima, Elijah. Yeah, I'm making my way around Australia. You might have seen the map there in my other window here, the Sky Vector map. If you open that up a little bit, you can see just my little bit of this journey today, 58 nautical miles. I'll do a little bit of a round robin of Canberra, because we have the full scenery for Canberra. But next flight, which will probably be Friday to be honest, I'm thinking we'll take the Cessna 172 down to Cabramatta and then up to Tumut, and from there, from Tumut we head on up to Young and Parkes, home of the dish, and then from Parkes we'll head on up to Nyngan, Narromine and Dubbo in one hit, and then the next one will be Bathurst down to the home of this aeroplane, Richmond. So I'm thinking we'll leave this aeroplane in Canberra, pretend that someone flew it home to Richmond, and then we'll pick it up again at Richmond, and we'll use JKN. So we'll take JKN from Canberra around Nyngan and all that kind of stuff, then bring it down to Richmond. We'll rejoin Hotel Tango Mike for the rest. So Juliet Kino November JKN is another aeroplane that I've flown in the real world with Arjun. It's a Cessna 172, also lives at Richmond. So yeah, next couple of weeks I suppose we'll be flying the single engines, Hotel Tango Mike and Juliet Kilo November, around their own little stomping grounds. And you can probably see the rest of the flights that I have planned out. There's a lot of them, all the way up the coastline, and then we go well inland into Queensland here, looking at places like Longreach, Quilpie and Birdsville, and we'll go past the other Richmond, the Queensland Richmond. Seemed like a fun idea to go past the other Richmond. Scenery for all of this, so we'll put the scenery into the descriptions for every time that we fly to a new airport. In the background every week I'll just make sure that all the scenery is working, and then we'll fly to it. So that's nice out here. I'm not sure about any jets on the tour. I'm thinking I'll stick to props, and at worst turbo props, like the probably the Duke 60 will come out for the longer legs, and probably the longest leg in the journey will be this one here from Murrin over to Ayers Rock, 530 nautical miles. So if we do the turbine Duke onto that, that'll get us there, doing 250 knots at 20,000 feet in a pressurized aircraft. I mean, I wouldn't want to do that in a Cessna 172. That would take like 4 hours. Yeah, I'm pretty confident that we won't be crashing. We might have some scenery glitches up in Canberra because I haven't tested Canberra, and it's got AU version 2 on top of Orbx on top of the city scenery. So who knows what will happen there. I'm sure the frame rates will die, and I'm sure that there will be something that goes wrong, but with any luck, close enough for jazz. Come up towards 6,500. Who wants to use the autopilot on the Piper Cherokee? Weird, bizarre autopilot. We could probably even go into nav mode, to be honest. I think we're close enough for that. Yeah, we'll just need to go over there a little bit. (787) quantum computer. I was flying the 747-8 the other night, and that crashed on me. I'm not sure what happened there. Went to bed with it flying to Hong Kong, and I came back to it and was like, "Eh, your sim has crashed." But yeah, I went and bought the 747-8 with some YouTube money, so I got paid from YouTube, and they had that 20% sale on, which I think is still on today but won't be on tomorrow. So if you haven't purchased your PMDG products yet, do it now before you go to bed, because there's a sale on and it won't be on tomorrow. That's my little shout out to you. If you're watching this live on stream and you want a PMDG product, buy it now. Don't wait. If you're watching this in the playback, well, it's probably too late already. Sorry. But yeah, in August of 2019, PMDG had a sale where they put 20% off every product that they have. And in that sale, I went and bought myself a 747-8. So I'll probably fly that for next milk run or something. Indeed, it was a once in a lifetime chance. It's never happened before, probably never happen again. Okay, I'm just going to settle down and trim out my forces so that we can give the autopilot something to do. Because the autopilot can't climb and descend on this aeroplane. It can maintain a altitude, and that's it. It can kind of maintain a course. Okay, so I'm going to press autopilot. We're going to go into track mode high, and we're going to altitude select. And we missed the altitude. So I'm going to unselect the altitude, and I'm going to push down so we get back to 6,500. Now, autopilot's annoying on this aeroplane. It's just a bizarre autopilot system. But the autopilot is on now. It's maintaining a track, but it's not maintaining an altitude. I'll do that for it. I'm just trimming down as we accelerate. And once we get in there, at 6,500, just moving the yoke back and forward a little bit. We can then talk about how the autopilot manages altitude, because it's very strange. It's kind of backwards compared to most autopilots, in my opinion. If you look at the services involved. Okay then, autopilot's in. Set. Hands-free. Right, so the Piper Cherokee's autopilot, as far as pitch is concerned, we only have two surfaces to move. There's the elevator itself and the trim tab at the back. Now on a Cessna 172 or a 737 or a 777 or a 747 or an Airbus A320, the trim is what controls your pitch in an autopilot. So if the autopilot wants to climb, it'll trim up. Whereas with the Piper Cherokee, if the autopilot wants to like move the yoke, move the nose up, it moves the entire yoke backwards, and then it requests you to put in some trim, manual trim. So right now I'm just reducing the power a little bit, so I require some upwards push. You can see the autopilot is beeping at us and giving us a yellow tone in the up. I'll do it again. Here we go. Pull on back. Up. With an up little yellow light on the autopilot, it's requesting me to move the trim tabs in the up direction, like that. And then it stops asking for yoke. So yeah, it's not really a autopilot much at all, really. You can kind of get away with it, but as I increased the power there, the aircraft ballooned because it's getting more lift, and then it requested trim down. So I'm just moving the trim. Now the airplane will stabilize again at 500 feet. It's trying to. And it's using the yoke moving backwards and forwards. There's a little servo motor pushing the entire yoke, the whole assembly forward and backwards. And once it's sitting there pulling yoke backwards, it goes, hey, I don't like pulling back on the yoke all the time. It's using power to do that. So little alarm goes off, wee, and then you move your trim in the direction that's asking for. So it's you, yourself, the pilot, moving the trim manually with the handle up there on the roof until that little beeper light goes off. Now at this moment we're flying straight and level, and the airplane can move its yoke using the little electronic servos up and down. So it's quite happy to accelerate a little bit, about a 10 knot range, but if it gets out of that 10 knot range, it'll again require more trim to push the nose down. So it'll beep at us, and then we have to move the trim. So there's a little bit of give and take between the autopilot and the manual trim, which the pilot has to move using that handle up on the roof. It's a very kind of weird backward system on the autopilot there. I don't know of any aeroplane that has a system like that, apart from the Piper Cherokee and the Piper Archer and all the other PA28 products. Maybe there's others that I don't know about, but certainly I've never seen anything like it on any other airplane, be it a Cessna 172 or 182, or as I said, big airliners like the 737s and stuff. On big airliners, it's the trim tab that moves. The trim itself is controlling the pitch, and the elevator just essentially remains fixed, and the big trim stabilizer moves up and down. Of course, the Piper Cherokee doesn't have a stabilizer, it has a stabilator. Cool. So Jack Browser got himself the PMDG 737, very nice to see. It's a very nice aeroplane to fly. Yep, sale is still on, so if you want to buy it now before you go to bed. By the time you wake up tomorrow, sale will be gone. No more sale after tomorrow. So yep, pick up your aeroplanes now. If you need to borrow money, then do that. Aaron Antonopoulos asking when the 747s are retiring. The Qantas 747s are retiring next year, 2020. Probably towards the end of the year. I'm thinking November sometime. Even at the moment, I think there's only 5 of them left, maybe less. Might be 4 already, but something like 5 747s in the Qantas fleet currently. So there's not many of them left to go. What happened to SU Day Night? This is a daytime tour. I know it's 7 PM in Melbourne, but we're flying daytime tour. Because it's a VFR tour and we want to see things. Okay, I've got 9 miles out to Captain's Flat. A little bit more snow on the ground. It has been a very cold week this week. In Melbourne, I think our temperatures got down. We actually literally got snow. I was out in a place called Mount Macedon last weekend with a friend of mine. She is singing in a musical up at Macedon. And when I got out of the musical at about 10 PM on Friday night, last Friday, didn't have my PC with me, it was in that shop. And it was 0 degrees, and by the time the next morning came around, there was snow on the ground at Macedon. That's like 45 minutes drive out of Melbourne. Snow on the ground, 45 minutes out of Melbourne. That's on Saturday. So yeah, very, 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 very cold. Yeah, last Sunday night I was without a PC. It was in at the shop getting new RAM put in, because the old RAM has been faulting all the time. So with any luck, this won't fault anymore. If it does, hopefully it's got nothing to do with the RAM. He says that there's a massive pause on the screen. Okay, we need to adjust altitude down to 5,500, drop 1,000 feet, and because we have this weird autopilot system, we can't actually use like a descent rate to do it with. There's no such thing as vertical speed on this autopilot. What you do is grab this black button on the yoke, and you'll see ALT, ALT, ALT. And what that essentially does is turn off the altitude holding, and then you use the yoke forward and backwards to adjust your altitude. ...2006 Melbourne in Moruya. 3 inches of snow at school. Australian Skywatch. In 2006 was the first year that I lived in Melbourne. And on Christmas Day, which is the middle of summer in Melbourne, we had snow on the ground. I know it was up in the Dandenong Ranges, but funnily enough, I actually lived at Dandenong at the time. Actually, I lived at Clayton, but still, at university. So I was sitting in my room, looking out over Mount Dandenong, and it was freezing as heck. I think it was like 5 degrees. That's like 6 in the morning, middle of summer. Up in the mountains, there's not even like high in the mountains, it's like Mount Dandenong. What is that? Less than 900 feet tall. Snow on the top of it. Snow halfway up it. I think the snow level was down to about 500 feet. So middle of summer Melbourne, snow down to 500 feet. How do you do heading hold? Well, obviously there's the heading bug. The aircraft, let's say we want to turn to 030. This little button over here, that push mode, click it twice so that this yellow light is showing on HD, which is HD for heading and TRK for track. So ST is it just track straight ahead, straight, HD is pick up a heading. So yeah, turning now to the heading. And if you click it twice more, then you get on the track, and that's using the GPS for the track. Anyhow, I'm going to descend now. So one push of the altitude button removes the altitude, and I physically push the yoke forwards. That will get us descending, and I'm just flying manually the descent rate now. I'm aiming for about 500 a minute, somewhere between 500 and 1000. Not that fast. And I'm still in track mode, so the autopilot is actually flying the left and right portion of the yoke. So if I don't touch the yoke in its left and right sense, then the autopilot is maintaining its steering, essentially. So the autopilot's steering the aeroplane while I'm controlling up and down at the moment. We can also do the opposite. You can have the autopilot maintain an altitude while you steer left and right. It's bizarre. Science homework at 7:30. Why isn't that already done? If homework's not done by 7, then either you are procrastinating or there's too much of it. One or the other. Can't have both of those things happen at the same time. My opinion of the air-to-air aircraft is I love them. They're brilliant. Cost a bit much, but I do like flying them. They're pretty cool. What I like most about them is that I've flown Hotel Tango Mike myself in the past. You can see that on my channel. And also Juliet Kilo November, which we'll do fly a little bit later. Just turning the autopilot off for a second because it didn't manage that turn very well. Billions of dollars. Great. Count 5,500. I wanted to send, I think, further down to 4,005. Let's check that now. Yeah, I'll need 4,005. So we're coming out of there, heading up towards Bungendore. Bungendore's inside its 4,500 area, which is the next one. So we'll continue our descent down another 1,000 feet. See you guys chatting, but I can't look at it yet. A bit busy. Keep it going down. Good thing about these is you can actually see where you are compared to the control steps. So we're halfway through the 5,500 one. We need to get down to 4,500 before we cross the next magenta line. And I'm just coming back up on the mixture. But we are descending, so I just want to be slightly rich of peak at the moment. Got another 500 feet and we won't need to talk to air traffic control. Okay, heading up towards Bungendore. Now after Bungendore we can land inside that side there. Bungendore to Lake George south. see how the lake is doing today. Lake George is the famous lake that disappears. Every once in a while it fills up, but most of the time it's essentially a dry lake bed with lots of grass in the bottom of it. Grass is very green very often because it's a lot more moist than the surrounding terrain because it's the bottom of a lake bed, but there's not often freestanding water in the entire lake. Often you get a lot of it in the south end of the lake, so the southern end of the lake will be quite covered in water, but by the time you get to the north it's essentially just boggy ground. There we are, 4,500 into the step. I'll just continue descending a little bit there so we don't scare the controllers. Alrighty, one thing I want to look at now is making sure our right hand tank is falling below the left hand tank, so it's probably time to do something about that. In preparation of that, I'm going to go back to autopilot. So I just want to level off. There. So the autopilot's on. Maintaining 4,300 and a bit. Got to turn on the fuel pump. Wait for a second or two. And then we'll switch over to the left-hand tank. Done. Onto the engine, EGT is good, and then we'll turn off the fuel pump. That there is a railway line, I believe, next to the road. Yep, this one's the railway, that one there is the road. I know where I am. That's Bungendore straight ahead. Bunch of houses up there. The Bungendores are essentially a little country New South Wales town on the edge of the ACT. Turn off the autopilot again. I'm just going to go around this there's a little bit of restricted airspace over there. There's a firing range or something like that. Don't want to get shot. See that little circle on the map, just tapping the edge of it. Ah, the 152, eh? They're a beast of an aeroplane to fly. Quite a bit smaller than a 172, not as comfortable. Two-seater. Not much of a useful load. Get 2 hours of fuel out of it quite commonly. Both seats filled. That's a bit of a nasty stall, I'm told. Not that I've ever seen one. Certainly a lot nastier than this aeroplane. This aeroplane, when you stall a Cherokee, it just doesn't want to stay in the stall. It's like, yeah, we're stalling, that's cool. We'll just kind of wallow around and throw the nose back at the ground and accelerate. And it's done. Full, you can like bench press the yoke and the aeroplane just doesn't want to stay in the stall. Whereas the 172 apparently tends to drop a wing, which is a bit disconcerting when you do it the first time, I'm told. Anyhow, that's what I'm told. This is Bungendore. I'm going to zoom ever so into this area so we don't fly directly over the town because that'll be noisy and the residents will probably not like us. So up there we can see Lake George, or the south end of it, full of water. It might be full of water by now, not sure. It tends to come and go depending on how much rain you get. We've had a bit of snow, so who knows, it could be unlocked already, or it could be dry as a pan as a but certainly in the sim we have a full Lake George. The township of Bungendore, off to our right there. Never actually physically been to Bungendore, but I do know that in my days of broadcast television, that was a difficult place to get transmissions into, because they were trying to, a lot of the people here were trying to get Canberra TV, and Canberra TV comes off Black Mountain, and obviously you can't see Black Mountain from here because there's mountains in the way. So people with like massive masts bouncing signals off the other hill behind them, essentially trying to pick up reflected signals off here, which worked kind of, not really, but kind of worked with analog television. But with digital television, that's just no go for that. So their council put in a repeater transmitter somewhere along here, which is cool because it means they can get TV now. But it's not cool because now they have to repoint their massive transmitters over at the new one. This requires a bit of someone going up on top of your roof and angling your antenna to the right location. And the other issue was that a lot of them had massive boosters on their signal, so they were like amplifying the signal massively from the reflection. So when you re-angle your antenna to a direct broadcast, it's not being reflected, and you're boosting it that much, it's just going to break up. They had to disconnect all of their massive boosting signal things. We're directly over Lake George South, sorry. Lake George South. So if I was wanting to go into Canberra now, which we do, and if air traffic control was online, which it's not, we'd make a broadcast. Who would that broadcast be with? I believe it would be with radar. Canberra approach. Oh, there we are. 125.9. Canberra approach, Hotel Tango Mike. Here's a Piper Cherokee at 4,300 over Lake George South, tracking northbound to Lake George North, inbound via scenic route. Request entry into the CTA. Yeah, the chat site going off. It's like an old IRC chat. It's going and going and going. It's taken off a life of its own. Alright, so now we're going to do something that you wouldn't normally get clearance to do, but let's pretend it happened. We've had clearance to do a scenic tour of all of Canberra. We're going to go all the way around, essentially up past Hall, down through Cossa, Bidgie, and then into the runway 35, the big one. There we go. There's the road, Federal Highway coming from Sydney into Canberra. So if you've ever driven along Lake George, that's the road you drive on. Normally there's no water up this far in the lake. Often there's a bit of water down here, but doesn't really extend that far north. And we're going to enter at Throttle Highway and head on towards Canberra. Let's go. 4,500, let's get down to 3,500, eh? Yes, 3,500 is the CLL. Traffic Canberra, Hotel Tango Mike is entering at Throttle Highway, tracking towards Canberra for a visual 3,500 on descent, leaving 4,000. Hotel Tango Mike. Let's go directly west. Don't know Enroach on the approach. Enroach on the approach. There we go. We'll cut straight across the CTA line there. So I need to be at 3,500 right about now. In the next 3 miles or so. I'm getting a 10,000 a minute. No, 1,000 a minute. Sorry. Just to wash off that extra 500 feet. Before we cross that line of trees, essentially. There we go, just in time. And we remain outside controlled airspace. Need some NBN at Aaron's house. I'm glad I have it at my house because I can do live streams now instead of waiting 3 days for this to go up. If I didn't have NBN, I wouldn't be doing this tour. Let's just put it that way. No NBN equals no tour. It's quite that simple. Please, sir, can I have some NBN? Yes, Oliver. You may. No NBN fuel 2020. Cool. So with the autopilot explanation done and behind us, because we're essentially in a location where we can't really use autopilot anymore. There's no point. We'll be changing directions a little bit too fast. We're doing a full ring around Canberra. Starting up here from the northeast, I suppose you'd call it, northeast to Canberra. I don't know any of the Canberra suburbs. I'm going to just bring up a map of Canberra so I can pretend that I know what I'm doing. If you happen to know Canberra better than I do, then good stuff. Anyway, we came in from the Throttle Highway, which is now well off to our left, I do believe. Somewhere down there. So we're about 8 to 10 miles to the north of Canberra Airport. Canberra Airport is way to the east side of Canberra itself. What connection do I need for this? I don't know what I need for this, but I know I have about 20 Mbps up. So that. Maybe less than that, because I can still do vatsim and download charts and stuff. But I've got 20 up and I've got about, download varies a lot because I'm on HFC and yeah, HFC is a bit dodgy, but sometimes I get as much as 85 BPS down, Mbps, sorry, and sometimes I get as little as 18. So somewhere between 18 and 80 on the download. Download doesn't matter for live stream, it's just the upload, and my upload is pretty solid at about 20. 20 Mbps. So we've got 20 Mbps, you'll be good. Alright, I believe the outer sides, these areas here must be something like the Guru Nature Reserve, and after that is the suburbs of Franklin and Gungahlin, Amaroo, Bonner. I think that's what I'm seeing. And if that's the lake that I think it is, then that's Amaroo and Gungahlin. So that lake there should be the, what's it called? Yerrabai Pond. Let's keep an altitude at 3,500 to stay just below the CTA. And we'll stay outside of those lakes, so we won't go any further south than Amaroo. Ngunnawal coming up straight ahead, and then Casey beyond it, and then I think Harcourt Hill, which would be that hill just beyond it. So Harcourt Hill just on the other side of Casey and Nichols. We're approaching from the Casey side, Nichols is just further south. There's a nice little spinny thing. A single lonesome windmill. Very interesting. Depends what he's got. If he's got ADSL, he might get as little as 0.8 Mbps, 0.5 Mbps, depending on if it's raining or windy or what. There's capital, down there somewhere. Nation's capital. So we decided that was Harcourt Hill over there. Beyond Harcourt Hill is Fraser, Charnwood and Dunlop. Kind of on the edge of New South Wales, really. In fact, some of that green stuff over that side is New South Wales. So the borders are pretty close. So we're doing 100 knots at the moment. I'm quite happy to stay there. (2300 RPM). Another lake, and I think that might be Lake Ginninderra. Pretty close to the University of Canberra, which would be that campus right there on the other side of the bridge. Yes, that is exactly what I'm looking at. So that white area there is the University of Canberra. Just going to continue around, looping out towards Dunlop. And we'll probably just nick New South Wales before we head south again. On the border is Belconnen, which is where the landfill site is. The rubbish dump for Canberra, where they should put most of the politicians. Thinking that this is somewhere near McGregor, and that little waterway there is Ginninderra Creek. So that ridge line, you can almost see farmland, and then a line where it becomes forest. that forest is New South Wales. So all this flat green land is Canberra, ACT, then New South Wales outside of that flat area. So yeah, that should be, in my opinion, that suburb I just said. Sorry, I don't know Canberra. McGregor. There we go. Or Parkwood? Don't know. Belconnen, just to the south there, in that kind of area there. Someone's curious about what Vincent said. Who knows? He deleted his own message, so that is lost to history. Yes, Jack, I do have a follower. We're doing a round robin of Canberra. I can see him on my TCASD. That's a ADSB in rather than TCAS, but anyway. There's Black Mountain with the big Telstra tower thing on the top of it. A wonderful place. Who's been there? Technically we should go in there because it's inside controlled airspace, but there's no traffic controllers online at the moment. So do we want to go down to Lake Burley Griffin and fly over the Parliament House? Fly over the Army Barracks at Duntroon? Yes, let's do it. Let's enter Control Terminal Airspace. Well, you'd need a squawk code and clearance to enter this area once we pass Black Mountain. Someone wants to see Duntroon. Now Duntroon is the Officers College, I believe. So if you want to become an officer in the Australian Army, you get sent down to Duntroon to do your officer course. Of course, before we get to Duntroon, we're going to pass by the Telstra Tower, which is that big chunky tower on top of the Black Mountain there, called Black Mountain. That lake straight ahead of us is Lake Burley Griffin. It's a man-made lake which is formed by blocking off a creek at a dam just south of the lake, just about there. I just move my compass around and we should be able to see the dam. There it is. So that little wall there is holding back that lake. If that dam wasn't there, this lake wouldn't be there. Now the lake is named Lake Burley Griffin, which is named after the architect who designed Canberra. Canberra didn't exist before about the 50s? And before that, the capital of Australia was Melbourne. Imagine him getting posted to Canberra. Yeah, I can't imagine it'd be that enjoyable. Okay, so I've got Parliament House over on the left hand side somewhere there. I think it's in that line there. We'll fly up to it. I do want to do one trip around Black Mountain though, so let's do that. for any of you guys watching. Hope you're enjoying the tour of Canberra. Luckily we're flying in Hotel Tango Mike, which is owned and flown by the Richmond Royal Australian Air Force Flying Club. The Air Force Base Flying Club. Not that it makes a difference with controlled airspace, but anyway, we're now well and truly inside controlled airspace. This is a down to surface area, so technically Canberra Tower essentially owns all of this. I'm not sure if we have ortho photos on Orbx. I mean, this particular little area may well have that because it's the Canberra city scenery. I'm hoping that one day they make a Sydney city scenery. That'd be nice. Have this much detail around Sydney. We already have a little bit of this kind of detail with Melbourne for the Orbx version 2 FTX Australia thing. Bunch of cars down there driving along the highways. Tago Lima. I don't know what you guys are spelling out, but one of those things was very close to a 4-letter word. Anyhow, that is Black Mountain. I think we should do Parliament House, because I'm sure that's really legal to do. Just flying over Parliament House in Canberra in a Piper Cherokee at 3,500 feet in left-hand spiral. At least in orbit. We'll use Canberra, Parliament House, Canberra as a fixed point for our turn. How about we do that? That sounds fun. There's the Australian War Memorial. You can see that big stretch of kind of brown ground all the way up to it. We'll do a circle around Canberra, Parliament House, then we'll shoot down the War Memorial. So I'll do a fixed point turn here. Here is the nation's capital, where Prime Minister Scott Morrison happens to hang around and do what he does. Say hello to Scott. How's your Hillsong, Mr. Scott? Now I can see that the entirety of Canberra is essentially based on circles, and you can see why, because the inner circle and the outer circle, and then further more circles, all based on this big circle around Parliament House. We're almost directly overhead the old Parliament House, which is a building straight ahead of the new Parliament House. Most of the apartment buildings down there, just off to the east of Parliament House itself. Deakin, I think the suburb's called, can't remember. No, Manuka. Manuka and Barton. There's the old Parliament House right there off the wing. They built that while they were still building this new one just there. The new one's a lot larger than the old one. The new one's got a lot of grass over the top of it. It's kind of an interesting building. And now we're going to shoot down the Australian War Memorial. I do believe that the Duntroon Army Base is just over there. That hill, essentially. It's hard to see. Getting dangerously close to the airport now. So there we have the Australian War Memorial. Still at 3005, exactly where I want it to be. War Memorial, of course, shoots straight down past the old Parliament House into the new Parliament House, and then down the concentric circles beyond. Have the big fountain. No, that's just the... what's that one? That's the Science Centre? Something like that. Can't remember. Some kind of cool museum. Cool. Duntroon out there somewhere as well. The officers' quarters. And the big hill. Got some Australian Army people watching. Nice to have you around. Anyway, I think I'll continue back south towards Bidgie. Possibly stick inland a little bit and then head on into runway 30 instead of 35. So I like runway 30. It's a bit shorter. And it points you in the direction of the GA area, which is where we want to go. Cool, the fuel tanks are pretty much equal, so I'll just leave it on the current one until we drop it another 5 gallons, and then we'll swap after that. So I'll probably be way down south near Bidgie before that happens. Canberra is a city of roundabouts. Pretty much everything is a roundabout here. I haven't been there for a very long time. I think the last time I was in there was 2016, 27. Actually, I drove through it in 2018, but I didn't stop. But yeah, 2016 I flew to Canberra. I think that's the last time I went. 2018 I drove through Canberra without really stopping, and I stayed overnight in Kuma. Much nicer place to stay. Anyhow, we'll travel on southbound towards the Royal Canberra Golf Club and the dam that keeps Lake Burley Griffin in place. Thank you, Burley Griffin Dam. You keep the lake nice and lakey. Further south from here we have Curtin and Lyons, Chifley, Coombs. Suburbs named after former Prime Ministers. There's the cork that keeps Lake Burley Griffin in the bottle, as it were. Heading up towards Red Hill, which is that thing there, Red Hill Nature Reserve. Or is it that one there? Don't know. Anyway, if we keep on going in this direction, we end up back in New South Wales near Jerrabomberra and Queanbeyan. Lots of high mountains over that side, which we will need to avoid. Let's go back to the aviation map. Cool, so we want to track Tuggeranong pretty much to Googong Reservoir, and then we'll probably head up towards Queanbeyan, then enter runway 30. Canberra Tower is 118.7. That's also the CTAF. Okay, that should be Canberra that we're almost over. Greenway on the south side of that, and that's Lake Tuggeranong. Way down in the south of Canberra. Yes, that is snow-capped mountains just to the south of it. In sight, you can see them from the ground. And that's why Canberra is hilariously cold. People chatting about their COs. Good to have you guys along. Okay, Tuggeranong Lake, right about there. Cool. So now we can head kind of eastbound across towards the Gugong Reservoir. Just going to pick up the speed a little bit while we make our dash across. Look for 2500 RPM. Just drop the nose a bit. Stay in. 3500. And we'll cut across to Gugong. Hey LZ Aircraft 98s, good to have you guys talking anyway. Glad to see that you guys have some history with Canberra, which is the reason that we came here in the first place, because, you know, it's good to see parts of the country that you either are familiar with or aren't familiar with. But anyway, that's Canberra from the sky. Black Mountain still over there with its TV transmitting goodness. Going to use my GPS to aim myself at the reservoir properly. Yeah, pretty much go directly east, I think. As I randomly climb 500 feet without looking. Pine Gap, where's that? Is that thing over there? No, that's the Deep Space Communications Complex, which I deliberately avoided. We can do that next Friday? Friday, yeah. Probably do another flight on Friday. And we'll leave Canberra and head down south towards the snow again. Anyway, where is Pine Gap? I thought that was somewhere near Alice Springs or something. Here it is. Pine Gap's near Alice Springs. So I'll do that in about 6 months from now. So we're taking the long way around. We're going up to Queensland before we hit NT. So we'll hit Queensland, we'll do the top end of Darwin, and we'll track around towards Broome before we head inbound to Wolf Creek Crater, and down through Perth, back around the top, and come in from Ayers Rock towards Alice Springs. So Alice Springs will be 6-12 months away from now. Anyway, this is Gugong Reservoir. Beautiful crease in the ground there. Look at that. And we're just going to track northbound now. We are well inside New South Wales. Keep crossing the border. New South Wales, ACT. ACT is a tiny state. Okay, we're heading towards Queanbeyan, which is the little bit of Canberra that's in New South Wales. Everybody's favourite place to hang. And that there is the airport that we're going to. We're pretty much on a long downwind, long base now. So I'll do the request. Traffic Canberra, Hotel Tango Mike is a Piper Cherokee inbound for runway 30. We're inbound from the north at 3,500. We're inbound from the south, sorry. 3,500 on base runway 30. Hotel Tango Mike. Scott Bennett. The Yokes are fine. I do like the Yoke. Can be a little bit sloppy, but there's a little fastener to do it. Yeah, a Yoke's a Yoke. It's easier to fly than with a stick. Let's put it that way. Okay, I'm going to start my landing checklist. Brakes are released and checked. Undercarriage is fixed. Mixture is fully rich. I'm going to stay on the current tank. Fuel is set. Seats and harnesses are secure. Checklist is complete. Okay, we're still in New South Wales, just to let you know. We're still in New South Wales until we cross this river, at which point we start being in ACT again. Then we land at Canberra Airport. So this is Queanbeyan just below us. Still in New South Wales. Still in New South Wales. I do hope you enjoy New South Wales. It's a nice place. It's a state that I grew up in. Although I lived in Sydney rather than down here in Queanbeyan. But if you don't like being in New South Wales, then you can come across this river. At which point, as we are in this aeroplane right now, we are now in ACT, the Australian Capital Territory. Traffic Canberra, Hotel Tango Mike, Piper Cherokee is final runway 30, Canberra. Flap 2. Or the flap. We're going to grab about 70 knots. Relax it down to about 65 knots. Checklist is complete. Broadcasts are done. Voice intercom does not yet work, unfortunately. You have to type everything. It's a pain. It's coming. It's coming. I'll probably be coming in inside the next 2, 3 to 6 months. There are some big changes made to the vatsim servers literally last week relating to it. So I'm thinking about 3 months' time I should have it. Yes, I am using vatsim. I was just typing. And then I say what I type so that you can hear it on the live stream without having to read, because that would be boring. Drop the flaps. No, I don't like that one. This one. Traffic Canberra, Hotel Tango Mike has vacated runway 30 Canberra. Alright, we're going to taxi all the way over to the fuel bowser because we need some fuel. We're nearly empty. We'll need fuel on the left more than the right, but we need it in both. I'll just shut down at the fuel bowser. After that, we'll stick it on the grass and then spend a week, a couple of days in Canberra. And hopefully we'll be back on Friday with the Cessna 172 heading down south into the Snowy Mountains again. I'm going to show you guys a tiny little town called Canberra, which used to be the highest town in Australia before they shut down the town last year. There is a tiny little airfield up there, Canberra Airfield, also shut down in the real world, but I'm sure the physical strip is still there. Yeah, it's a town that got shut down. The town that got shut down. How about that? Anyhow, let's grab some fuel and we'll park in the grassed area just off to our left. That's an RPM, let's chuck in the parking brake. Batteries are off. Let's get on out of the aeroplane. Cool. Not cool. So, fuel bowser. You'll find in here is a big chunky hose that you can pull out off a reel. Pull it over to your aeroplane. And over here is a place to put a credit card, which will then give you the option to start the big chunky noisy engine that powers that's that whole thing. So imagine it pressurizes with a kind of a diesel engine that's Just goes blah, 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 blah. Then you can take this hose out and stick it into your aeroplane. Up to the tabs, because we don't want to overfill the aeroplane. Kind of did that backwards, oh well. So the aeroplane is full of fuel. Come over here and make sure that the hose is pulled back into its reel. Yeah, it works a little bit like a vacuum cleaner or whatever with those like retractable cords. Yeah, that's already taken the credit card payment, because you pay before you pump, essentially. Back on board, we're going to, instead of pulling the aeroplane around with a handle, we're just going to drive it around. So, a bit easier. No need to do anything with the primer there. Engine's pretty warm already. I'm just going to give it full, that. Run the rotating beacon. Quick look. Clear prop. Okay, 1000 RPM, and we can release brakes and taxi back around into the parking spots. Something I've done with the positioning of my speakers just as I've been putting my computer back together in the last day or two. It's just vibrating my entire desk at a certain RPM level, sitting around about 1000, about 1100 RPM. I just get this massive grrr. It's cool, but it's quite disconcerting actually. I might need to change something about my desk. Ah, here we've got a phone number for payment, for parking. Up to the line. Square it off. There we are. Yeah, looking about good there. Parking brakes are in. Shut it down. Shut the window so there's no mozzies in here for the next guys. And we'll tie down the aeroplane, put it to bed, because someone else is taking it up to Richmond. And on Friday we'll be taking Juliet Kilo November down to Canberra and Tumut. Essentially we'll do a backwards version of the walk around. So the flaps are up. Tie down is tied down. If you've ever put one of those in, it's essentially a tent peg that you hammer into the ground and then you just chuck a rope down from the tie down point. Just make sure the aeroplane doesn't go flying when you're not around to see it and end up upside down. Same thing there. Tie down is tied into the tent peg. Oh, there we go. And the rear tent peg open. Open up the boot and we can get our stuff. And there we are. Let's get that door closed. He's decided to go for a bit of a round and round the rosy circle. That's a bit annoying. How do we stop him? There's one way. Cool. That's not the way. Yeah, let's open the door, but we can't. All right. Door is closed. So, Canberra, Wednesday, Thursday, and we'll see you guys on Friday when we take the Cessna 172 out of Canberra down to Tumut. Till then, I hope you've enjoyed our little discussion about working in the Australian Army, apparently. I've been Musical Aviator. That's been the chat room. I'll see you guys next time. Ciao.